Han stretched wearily amid stacked boxes, reflecting with resignation that no matter how much chaos disrupted his routine, the sun would inevitably rise again. Han hurled his phone aside, muttering that he had no interest in the relentless questions about his search for Hyunkyung or the threats of harassment in Seoul, his annoyance simmering as he defiantly rejected the message. In a brightly lit office, Han, the confident and relaxed leader, stretched with a cheerful smile, as he says let's get started. In a quiet, sunlit room, Hyup stood with a phone and a tray in hand, his thoughtful gaze betraying his uncertainty as he wondered whether he should reach out to Galyong about Hyunkyung. Han settled into his chair with a calm yet determined air, assuring the others that Galyong might hold the answers they sought and insisting he should handle it since they were still preoccupied. Han's composed expression filled the frame as he calmly entrusted the responsibility to someone else, signaling his trust and steady resolve. Then, as the calm persisted, Han lifted his cell phone and quietly answered, his measured voice underscoring the steady confidence in the air. On a shadowed evening, Hyup stood clutching his phone, worry etched across his face as he asked if he should end the call, sensing Lee Galyong's labored breathing on the other end. On the edge of a tense confrontation, Han's apprehensive gaze settles on the smirking figure by the phone as Ji Galyong, newly introduced with a calm demeanor, enters holding a laptop, prompting Han to brace himself for yet another difficult encounter and recall that Ji Galyong works in the field of information. On a stark white canvas, the narrator reflected on frequent dealings in Busan, acknowledging that despite the steep price, the detailed and valuable information made the transactions worthwhile. Then, memories of an awkward encounter surfaced as Han recalled how Galyong, tall and infatuated, once flirted boldly with him, drawn to his smaller stature, while a flurry of pink hearts hinted at the playful trouble that followed. Hyup clenched his fist, his face shadowed by resentment as he realized it was simply easier to let Hyup take over, while Galyong stood silently behind him, embodying calm detachment. Han recalls when Director Yoon raised a gloved hand to scrutinize the USB drive, his thoughts turning to Director Yoon's actions and the lingering questions that examining the laptop's access logs might finally answer. A pale glow from the computer screen filled the dim room as Han Ishin hesitated before the password input box, frustration mounting while he wondered aloud if his choice of password had been too simple. Under harsh fluorescent lights, Han's eyes widened in disbelief, sweat beading on his brow as he struggled to comprehend the shocking revelation before him. It began in a flurry of chaos as countless digital files erupted across a glowing computer screen, each one tumbling in rapid succession and setting a frantic pace for what was to come. Han's hand trembled against the surface as suspicion and anger surged within him, convinced that someone had orchestrated this situation just to provoke him. Now, flames roared to life behind Han as, driven by furious defiance, he demanded if anyone truly expected him to tolerate such humiliation and declared that the charade would end here. On a quiet desktop bathed in soft light, the calm was broken only by the gentle click as a file icon was selected among the scattered folders. In a cramped, cluttered office where frustration hung in the air, Han typed furiously on his laptop, muttering that files from 2017 were mixed with those from 2019 and lamenting the chaos of documents scattered across both folders and desktop. In a quiet moment of reflection, Han's contemplative gaze lingered as he touched his chin, wondering aloud if they had ever done something like this before. That memory led Han and Galyong to recall the adrenaline of raiding the cheating man's motel, mentioning how, during a tense mission to catch a stalker, Han had gotten hurt and Yun Hyup's fury nearly turned deadly. Han's calm gaze revealed his realization that working alongside Yun Hyup had not only broadened the range of their assignments but also made every task safer and more enjoyable. Hyup stood with a pink apron draped over his shoulders, calmly holding a cigarette and speaking into his phone, Han's tone filled with admiration as he remarked on just how capable Hyup always proved to be. Han studied Hyup's absent-minded expression, privately admitting to himself that he preferred this gentle aura over the intensity that settled in whenever Hyup grew focused. Han rested his head on his hand with a smile while Hyup, clad in a pink apron, voiced his curiosity about the laptop and speculated that catching Hyunkyung might earn them a generous bonus. Han stood by his desk, frustration clear in his posture as he glared at the laptop and complained about Director Yoon's mishandling of the files before demanding to know what Galyong had said. Hyup explaining to Han with a casual tone that someone had contracted a urinary tract infection after unprotected sex, but clarified that the real topic of concern was Hyunkyung. Hyup shared with curiosity that not even Galyong knew what he looked like, adding that Hyunkyung had settled in Seoul about 2.5 years prior. Han sat thoughtfully at the breakfast table while Hyup, his expression serious beneath his apron, explained that he had asked someone to investigate the unclear connection between Director Yoon and Hyun-kyung, as well as the possible link between Director Yoon's arrival in Seoul and Hyun-kyung's disappearance. In a sun-drenched field framed by golden sunflowers and lush leaves, Galyong struck a playful pose, his cheerful demeanor hinting at the remarkable knack he possessed for gathering information. Hyup's serious gaze fixed ahead as he revealed that though he was uncertain of the true relationship between Director Yoon and the mysterious man, he knew both had come under Chairman Jin's authority 3 years prior. Han listened intently as an unseen ally explained in a grave voice that they would need to uncover information from Chairman Jin's side to move forward. Han looked up with a relieved smile, expressing how grateful he felt to have finally made it here today. Sensing lingering tension, he reached out to softly touch the other's cheek, urging them in a soothing tone to try and calm down. Hyup revealed that he had already handed over all the information, though he admitted with growing concern that tracking the phone had not gone smoothly. Hyup's serious gaze fixed on Galyong as he confided his suspicion that the mysterious disappearance before them could only be explained by trickery or a ruthless act, leaving the air heavy with unease between their untouched breakfast plates. Hyup spoke with measured calm, explaining that he had been told the search would continue, updates would follow, the deposit was due next month, and a small discount had been promised. As Galyong slipped off his apron and announced he would take a shower, Han watched him leave and acknowledged with calm appreciation that the hard work was done. Han reflected on Galyong's reputation for chasing money, yet admitted with a gentle smile that regret lingered from that past incident. Hyup turned his head with a puzzled expression, clutching a pink object as confusion flickered in his eyes, silently questioning the unexpected situation unfolding before him. Steam curled through the bathroom as Han, startled and vulnerable, froze mid-shower when Galyong suddenly barged in with a playful grin, his surprise mingling with lingering confusion over the unexpected intrusion. As Hyup stood in shocked silence at the doorway, Galyong, unfazed and still entangled with Han on the bed, lightly explained that his embarrassing predicament had at least earned them a permanent post-payment discount, leaving the tension thick with both mortification and sly triumph. In the heavy silence that followed Galyong's sly explanation, Hyup's anxious expression betrayed his struggle to find words, sweat gathering as he hesitated on the verge of a response. Then, as Galyong's trembling hands rose in desperate defense, Hyup's furious glare cut through the tense air while he insisted to the others that he'd thought the matter finished after giving Han a thorough beating. Hyup's voice rang out as he angrily accused his boss of being oblivious to Galyong's intentions, scoffing that the boss surely didn't even remember how scared he'd been back then. Emotions still running high, Han's frustration deepened as he insisted with sharp intensity that this was no matter to simply laugh off. Sensing the tension he had caused, Han turned away from Hyup and, his voice filled with regret, apologized for overreacting and insisted that both he and Galyong had only meant it as a joke. Still weighed down by embarrassment, he scratched the back of his head and appeared lost in thought, uncertain how to mend the awkwardness lingering in the air. Then, straightening with renewed resolve, Han glanced at the cluttered desk and said they should focus on getting back to work. His focus narrowed as his hand hovered over the computer mouse resting on the link pad, while he reminded himself that finishing quickly would give him time to lift Hyup's spirits afterward. Just then, curiosity flickered in his eyes as he noticed a mysterious file on the screen, quietly wondering if such a document had always been there. As he examined the files more closely, Han grew increasingly perplexed, silently questioning why documents from 2008 had surfaced and whether Director Yoon was responsible for their presence. Leaning back in his chair, Han stared at the laptop and scattered documents, wondering aloud to himself what possible reason there could be for this baffling situation. Just as his question hung in the air, the laptop screen displayed the stark announcement of Hajin Construction's bankruptcy, prompting Han to murmur a stunned, solemn reaction at the weight of the news. A sudden torrent of memories overwhelmed Han, his shocked and troubled face revealing how those painful moments he had tried so hard to bury now surged back with relentless intensity. As the rain poured down, Han crouched in the deluge, clutching his head as desperation threatened to consume him.